Hello everyone and welcome back to the Calham64 LP Retrospective, and today we're going to be looking at my short, incredibly short in fact, LP of Sonic Spinball for the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis. I think after how long Spyro 3 took, given the fact that the previous LP, was around 48 episodes, it burnt me out of trying to record long games. So the one that just came to my head while, Spyro 3 came to a close was Sonic Spinball for some reason. I don't know why. But I wanted to show off why I find the game underrated, because honestly, Sonic Spinball gets a lot of hate given the fact that the physics are very strange, but I find it really cool and unique for a pinball game, and I tried my best, to reflect that in the LP. For a start, a lot of people thought that Sonic Spinball had only one level, so in other words, Toxic Caves was the only level in the whole entire game. But no, there is actually like 4 levels going on, given the fact that you had the Lava Powerhouse, the Machine, and then the final level, which is known as the Showdown. So it does actually have a lot of variety going on, and I don't know, I just wanted to show it off. I found that it was a bit overlooked. The whole LP was actually 4 episodes long, so compared to Spyro 3, that did feel a little bit different, I will admit. It's a very short game, but really enjoyable. I remember being very excited to record Sonic Spinball though, because it marked the very first time that I recorded from an actual original system and had it in almost emulator quality, for the graphics going on. Because what I did is, during the time of recording Spyro 3, I bought some more tech in that to make things a little bit more convenient and easier, because I did find that while I was playing Spyro 3 on an emulator, sure it was comfy and stuff, but I do find it a lot better when I'm just playing from the original system, and in fact even on a CRT if you will, which I've found out how to do nowadays. Because the problem I find, when trying to capture from original systems with my scaler that I use and playing it on HD TV, is that sometimes there can be a bit of input lag depending on what type of TV you have. In this case, the TV that I have has an awful lot of that, meaning that when I did record Sonic Heroes, I was playing it on a TV with slight input lag, so sometimes it did throw me off and I had to redo stuff, whereas when I'm actually playing it on a CRT, there's like no lag at all. So anything that happens in the game, any mistakes that happen in the game are not due to the lag, it's literally through my own error, my own mistake, I have nothing else to blame. Over the time of playing Spyro 3, I did a bit of research, or at least, just became interested in knowing how to get the best quality that you can out of original systems, and then I came across this term known as RGB SCART. And then from there, I was like, oh my god, wow, because I bought a whole bunch of RGB SCART cables, for systems like the GameCube, Super Nintendo, the Sega Mega Drive, etc., and there's no going back. RGB SCART is the best way to play those original systems, in my opinion. But of course, there was a bit of a bugbear going on, and that's the fact that the capture card I use is Elgato Game Capture HD, and of course, well, it's in the name, isn't it? It only accepts HD signals, and while it can accept composite and component and S-video and yada yada yada, there isn't any way where you can literally just plug a SCART cable straight into it. So in the end, I looked about online and I found this SCART to HDMI box where you literally just plug in the SCART and then it outputs via HDMI and actually upscales it to 720p or 1080p. And it's also a way for you to record retro systems in full 60 frames per second, because honestly that's the one thing that kind of lacks when using the Elgato Game Capture HD. The fact that the original Elgato Game Capture HD, it does record in 60 frames per second, but only at a 720p resolution. The thing that makes it different with Elgato Game Capture HD 60 is, yes, it can record in 60 frames per second, but that's for both 720p and 1080p. That was the one thing that the original Elgato couldn't do. It could record in 60 frames per second, but only when it's locked, at a 720p resolution, or even lower than that, I think. But if, you tried to record in 1080p, the highest it could do was 30 frames per second. Which kind of sucked as well when it came to making Sonic Spinball, because it meant that I could literally record Sonic Spinball from an original Mega Drive upscaled to 720p and at full 60 frames per second as well, even though it was kind of pointless given the fact that the game doesn't really run at that frame rate, but whatever, it was still a thing. In fact, the current footage that you're seeing right now, while I talk about this, you know, those borders and then the actual gameplay footage going on, is literally recorded from my Sega Mega Drive, you know, with Sonic Spinball on the actual cartridge and hooked up through the scaler to my Elgato. I'm doing it the exact same way that I did it back in 2016, and it still works pretty good, I think. And sorry if this retrospective is mainly just going to be me explaining about, you know, how the scaler works, but that's honestly one of my biggest memories when it comes to Sonic Spinball. Whenever I look back on my channel and I see Sonic Spinball, the full playlist, I'm like, oh yeah, that, I remember that, I forgot that exists. It's one of those LPs, you know, given the fact that it was really small, it makes me sometimes forget that I even did it in the first place. The same goes with like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, when it suddenly pops up, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was fun, that was a while back actually. Yeah, kind of forgot about that. Because each episode, if I was to critique it, it wasn't really that much going on, it was just, here's this pinball level, I'm gonna go through it and explain what I like about it, and the fact that I find that this game gets a bit too much hate in my opinion, and it was the same thing going on for each level. It was, you know, through Toxic Caves, Lava Powerhouse, the Machine, and even the Showdown, which I don't like. I even said that in the LP. Yes, the final level is horrible, I mean that. I'm fine with Toxic Caves, I'm fine with Lava Powerhouse, sort of the Machine here and there, but there are a bit of unfair deaths and that going on in my opinion, but the Showdown can just go to hell, which is fitting considering you are pretty much in hell when you get to that area, to be honest. In fact, the humorous thing, I suppose it's funny to me anyway, is even though I said Sonic Spinball doesn't run in 60 frames per second, it does on the bonus rounds, which makes no goddamn sense, but whatever. I mean, I suppose that at least shows off the frame rate here and there, doesn't it? Due to the game being really short though, it meant that this did not take long to make it all, given the fact that I just made the profile pic, the banner, and the outro, as well as an intro going on. The actual LP did not take that long to make at all. I think I pretty much recorded the whole entire game in literally one take, or at least up to the Machine, because I did use the level select code, given the fact that Sonic Spinball for the Mega Drive / Genesis doesn't really have a save file, you know, like with Sonic the Hedgehog 3 going on. So that meant I had to restart things from the beginning, which I didn't really want to do, especially when it comes to doing the Showdown. So in the end, I used the cheat code of the level select just to make things a bit more convenient. I wouldn't really call it cheating and stuff, because it was literally using it as a save state just to save, you know, me getting all the way back up to where I was in the next episode. I could just literally boot it up and try it again. It didn't really matter. Because of the LP being really short as well, it's one of those ones that I would recommend you to watch, given the fact that it's really not that long of an LP, so you can literally watch it in a full day, given the fact it's only 4 parts. So if you want, you can just literally dedicate your morning, I suppose, to watching it, because it's very, very short. Oh, one final thing I suppose I can talk about is that Sonic Spinball was the very last time I used Camtasia Studio 8. Yes, I was still using it at this point. All the way back in 2012 when I was using Camtasia Studio 8 and getting the hang of it with Minish Cap, I used it all the way up to 2016 with Sonic Spinball, because after that I upgraded. I eventually got to use Premiere Pro on the project, and then I started to use that a lot more in my spare time, and I got the hang of it, and I was like, well, you know what, I'm going to use this for LPs from now on, except I didn't really master it from the very beginning, I will admit, because I remember editing a one-off blind edition, I think it was, of Beautiful Joe, and thinking, oh my god, this is well more complicated to use than Camtasia Studio 8, but nowadays, I can easily just pick up Premiere Pro and just edit a video ASAP. And that was where my videos suddenly became rendered in 60 frames per second as well. That was the only thing that kind of sucked, really, given the fact that Sonic Spinball was capable of that, at least in the bonus rounds anyway. But Camtasia Studio 8 wasn't capable of rendering out in 60 frames per second, except oddly enough, its screen recorder could record in 60 frames per second, but the editor couldn't, so it was completely pointless using that in the first place anyway. But Adobe Premiere Pro could, and that's why after Sonic Spinball, suddenly my next blind LP, Mega Man X2, was in 60 frames per second and had a lot more going on, given the fact that Premiere Pro is a lot more advanced and complex, you know? And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, really, about Sonic Spinball. It's an LP that's in the past. Sometimes I remember it, sometimes I don't. I mainly just remember it, given the fact that it was the very first LP to use the RGB SCART formula, and ever since then, I haven't really gone back. I freaking love this. I still use it nowadays, and I've even found ways to make it a lot better, because I found a way where I can literally record it through my scaler and get it captured through Elgato, but hook it up to my old CRT, so I can play it with like no input latency going on and just play it exactly how I usually play all my retro games, because I'm a bit of a weirdo, okay? Most people, when they play old school games and stuff, they just get the composite cables, they hook them up to a HD telly, and they're like, yeah, let's just play some retro games. Me? No. I get a freaking RGB SCART cable, I plug it in the back of my CRT, and then I play it with blooming stereo speakers. That is heaven to me, okay? So it's really nice that I can replicate that when I'm actually recording LPs now. I've done a lot of rambling in this, I apologize. So join me next time where I'm going to be talking about my next blind LP, which I did, which was Mega Man X2 for the Super Nintendo. Yes, after the sudden success of Mega Man X, like I don't know what the hell happened. Back then when I recorded Mega Man X, nobody really watched it or anything going on. But over the years, suddenly it just boosted and people were like, hey, you should do the sequel, you know, you should do Mega Man X2 because you were really good at the first game, even though I thought I was terrible. I don't know what the hell people are on about. So in the end I did. I was like, well yeah, okay, I mean, I enjoyed the first game and I'm motivated to play some Mega Man X, so let's just go over to X2. So I'll be talking about that. See you then. To see the next episode of this retrospective series, go to here. To see the full playlist of this series going on, go to here. To see the original LP of the one I have critiqued, go to here. Or even consider subscribing to the channel by going to here instead. Thank you for watching.